I'm Mina Roby. I'm a health and wellness coach. In the video today, we are making meatloaf. This is a traditional comfort food. You can actually make it, you can be as creative with meatloaf as you want to, and I hope you really enjoy this one today because it has a couple of special ingredients, I think, for meatloaf. This is my husband's recipe, and every time he makes it, people just go crazy over it. It starts with some carrots and onions that we're going to saute. Then we've got ground beef. We're going to put some oats in it, some eggs, a little bit of Worcestershire sauce, and salt and pepper. It's that simple. But the first thing we need to do is saute our onions and carrots just a little bit. So this is 2 medium-sized carrots. They're about this big that I've grated most of them. So we're going to finish grating these on a box grater. It's not a unique or expensive kitchen tool. It's just a really, really handy one that you will love to have in your kitchen. You can grate anything with it. All vegetables, cheeses, anything. It's really fantastic. Okay, so we've got some grated carrots here and 1 onion, just 1 yellow onion that has been chopped. So we're going to saute these in a little bit of olive oil. We just have a non-stick skillet for olive oil. This is how we're going to get started. So once these get soft, then we'll put everything else back together. Our onions and carrots are just now soft enough. We're going to put a tad of salt in here just to kind of enhance the flavor a little bit. Okay, these are as soft as we want them. We're about to mix them in with the meat. So I'm going to turn these off, set them over here and let them cool just a little bit. Now we're going to put the rest of our meatloaf together. We're going to be building things on top of each other. This is 3 pounds of ground beef. And ground beef, when you buy in the grocery store, you'll see that it'll say 70-30 or 80-20. Then you may see like chuck that's 100% ground beef. Really the best ground beef mix to use is an 80-20 if you can find it. Sometimes it'll even have odd numbers like 73%. And what those numbers are, the higher number, like the 73% or the 80%, that's the amount of actual lean beef, and the other percentage is fat that they put in there, which is really necessary for the flavoring and the cooking of it, so it won't be dry. And it's really, this is not a bad fat. It's not a bad fat for you. Okay, we're gonna now add a cup of oats. And don't worry about trying to remember all the measurements here because there's going to be a written recipe that will also accompany the video. This is 2 eggs that we're going to just mix just very lightly, very lightly. We're going to put these in here. So this is 3 pounds of ground beef, our oats, our eggs, and we've got salt and pepper. Where's my salt? Oh, got it. Let's go ahead and add our carrots and onions. And you know what's also fun about this? We're going to mix all this with our hands. So it may be a little messy, but it's absolutely the best way to do it. Okay, there's our carrots and onions. We've got a good, healthy pinch. I would say since it's a lot of meat, that's going to be like a couple teaspoons of black pepper. And this is probably going to about a tablespoon of salt. But again, we'll have the written recipe for you. Okay, let's go ahead and do Worcestershire sauce. This is optional in your recipe, but we're gonna go ahead and put a couple of tablespoons in here to this tablespoon measure. And again, Worcestershire sauce is a really great staple seasoning to have in your refrigerator, just like salt and pepper and Italian seasoning or garlic powder. You can put this in anything and it really enhances the flavor. And we're also going to put a splash of milk. This is also a little bit of a binder in here. Here. Now, clean hands go in. We're just mixing everything all together. And then once we get it all mixed together, we're going to bake this actually in a glass casserole dish. It's a 9 by 13 pan. We're going to do it in glass just because that's the one I pulled out. So if you have a glass one, or oh, it smells good already, even though it's still raw. So if you have a glass one or a metal one, either one is okay. So you just get everything all mixed up. We've already preheated the oven to 350 degrees, and this is going to cook for an hour. So what I like to do, even though we plan on cooking it for a whole hour. Once we put it in there, I would check it at about 30 minutes. Set your timer and check it at about 30 minutes just to make sure everything's coming along well. All right, here we go. We're gonna plop a nice meatloaf in this pan, and then we'll get it all shaped up to look like a loaf. Now, it looks a little bit unusual, doesn't it? It's gonna be so delicious. And I'll tell you what else we're gonna do too. While the meatloaf is cooking, we're gonna make some mashed potatoes. Because when you think about a meatloaf, it just seems like, you know, Sunday afternoon, but so you think of all that wonderful, yummy food on Sunday afternoons, mashed potatoes go with that. All right, let me get this cleaned off just a little bit. All right, loaf's going in our oven, preheated to 350 degrees to cook for an hour. We'll check it in about a half hour and see what it looks like. Okay, while our meatloaf is cooking, we're gonna start our mashed potatoes. And we've got just white russet potatoes. They're delicious. I'm planning for 4 people, so we're gonna do 6 medium potatoes. I've already peeled and chopped these up, so I'm gonna go ahead and peel another potato. This is our handy vegetable peeler, which is an absolute have to have in your kitchen. Your vegetable peeler, salt, pepper, a few other spices that are vital for your cooking enjoyment. Okay, you don't have to be fancy with your how you cut up your potatoes because they're going to be boiled and mashed up. But we are going to get like the little black spot. We're going to get that out. So cut it in half, and then each half in half, and then just make some big chunks. There. Now, all these potatoes are gonna go in a big pot. We're gonna cover them with water, add some salt, and then bring them up to a boil. And these little guys are gonna cook probably about 20 minutes or so. And they're gonna get soft, and then we'll add some yummy stuff to them. So you're just gonna add just enough water to cover them. And we'll put the salt in there. There we go. And the potatoes are just a fantastic starch that you can also add to any one of your meals. They're really filling. And when you have a starch like this, you can have starches are also pastas and rice. So when you have a starch like this, you definitely want to balance it with something green. We've already got our beef cooking in the oven, so that's a really nice heavy protein. And you'll see when we take it out that we're going to be pouring most of the fat off, so it's going to be a little bit leaner. So when you want to balance your meal, think about that. You don't just want a starch and a protein, you want some green too. So we'll come back to these after we add some salt. While they're cooking, these are going to come to a boil, and then we're going to turn them down to a simmer for about 20 minutes or so. When they get soft, we'll mash them up and add some good stuff in there. We are just about to get our beautiful meatloaf out of the oven, but before we do that, we're going to make a glaze to put on the top of it. This is a half a cup of ketchup and a little bit less than a half a cup of brown sugar. We like it more ketchup-y and less brown sugar-y. So it's just like that, just about a little bit less. So we're gonna mix this up. And I am truly, truly excited for you guys to make this because the smell in this kitchen is incredible. All right, this is our glaze. We're gonna put this on top of the meatloaf when we pull it out. Here we go. Here's our meatloaf. Wait until you see it. Now this I have to tell you too to be very cautious because it's heavy. The meatloaf is heavy, the dish is heavy, so make sure you have some good pot holders. And you can see that there's a lot of fat that cooked off of our meatloaf, which is wonderful. It added the flavor, but it's not going to be in our meatloaf. Now before we drain that off, we're going to go ahead and preheat. We're going to change our oven to broil. Let's see. Because we're going to put the glaze on it and then just broil it for about 2 minutes. So go ahead and do that. Here we go. This is how we're going to pour off our glaze. Pour off our grease from the meatloaf. Just get a good metal pan, or if you have like a coffee can, I don't even know if they have metal coffee cans anymore. Anything that you have that you can drain some of that fat off from your meatloaf. Just be really careful. Make sure you have some good thick pot holders. and you get some of that fat off. Because in this dish, the fat has served its purpose. It's made it flavorful. So here's our glaze. This is our brown sugar and ketchup glaze. We're just gonna pour it over the top. And this is another thing that you may remember from your grandmom, your mom, whoever in your life made that meatloaf that you were excited about when you came home and you could smell it. And everybody wanted the crunchy part of the glaze on top. And here's another thing, if you've never had a meatloaf in your life, this is the one for you. This is the one to start with. Okay, now we're gonna stick this back in the oven for about 2 minutes. Remember, it's on broil. Okay, the meatloaf is done. What we're doing now, we're just browning the glaze. So we're gonna set the timer on 2 minutes. We're gonna leave it crack just a little bit because broil is very hot. So let's put our timer on 2 minutes. And while that is broiling, now it's time for our potatoes. And I want you to see our mashed potatoes over here. Our potatoes for our mashed potatoes have been boiling for 20 minutes. We put them in cold water, turned the eye on high, and then when it came up to a boil, we turned them down. They've been cooking for 20 minutes. So now they're perfect. But let me show you how you can see how your potatoes are done. Okay, when you just give them a poke like that and they come apart, see, the potatoes are done. Okay, we're gonna drain them. And then we're gonna do some beautiful things with them. You just pour your potatoes into a colander. Be very, very careful. The pot's very hot. Again, make sure you have really good pot holders, good sturdy pot holders. Drain all of that out of there. Pour them back into your cooking pot. Now this is where all the deliciousness comes in. This is an entire stick of butter, not margarine, it's real butter. And we're only gonna start with about 2/3 of it. So we're gonna put our butter in here. A good chunk of salt. And some black pepper. This is what's gonna make it delicious. Okay, oh, hang on. Let's check on our meatloaf. Oh, it's perfect. Here, I want you to see this too. Just bubbling. Our glaze is perfect. Now that can rest a minute while we finish our potatoes. Excuse me. Okay, potato masher. Again, vital kitchen tool. We mash our potatoes with our salt and pepper and butter. Get everything mashed in really good. Then we're gonna pour some milk in. And this is your basic mashed potato recipe. Remember, we've got the white potatoes. We boiled them in some salt water, added butter and salt and pepper, and now some milk. This is what makes them creamy. But anything you want to add to them after this is going to be your own. You can put chives in there, chopped green onions. You can put Parmesan cheese or cheddar cheese. However you want to fancy up your mashed potatoes is perfect. Here we go. And you can do whatever you want them to. You can keep them chunky, like a potato masher like this will make them a little bit, you'll have a little bit more texture than others. A little bit more texture than if you use a mixer. Our meatloaf is finished, our mashed potatoes are finished, and we've made our plate. This delightful meatloaf and mashed potatoes. We added some sliced tomatoes and just a little piece of green onion too. This is a wonderful meal. And also remember, the meatloaf is wonderful to reheat. Meatloaf sandwiches are like the best thing ever. You're gonna love it. Thanks.